It's giving me a hard time. It doesn't want to share my screen. Let me just. You can't see my slides, can you?
Yeah, I can't. Yeah,
Okay,
now I can.
great.
Hmm. Let me ask whether. How do I? Okay. 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 So, good evening, everyone. And this is the continuation of our breast cancer awareness program. And today's our speaker is from the Australia. She is based in Melbourne, Australia, and uh, she has the experience of the breast cancer, and her mother is also the breast cancer patients. And following her diagnosis of the triple negative breast cancer and the subsequent treatment, Navina decided to reevaluate her life and focus on utilizing her skills and knowledge to assist others achieve better health outcomes. In her previous corporate life, she has senior professional with extensive strategy, research, M&A, and management skill across the range of industries, dairy, trustee, funds management, and provide health insurance. Navina has an MBA from the Melbourne Business School and is a consumer representative of Cancer Council Victoria VCNA breast cancer trial VCCC, and WEHI, to name a few. And I am happy to also share that she is the advisor of our BBIF uh, cancer care program. So that Navina, it is your time to start. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I'm just going to share my screen
Yeah.
with my slides. It doesn't want. It worked all right a minute ago, and then it always plays up. Just bear with me for a second. Um, there we are. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me. As Dr. Yadav mentioned, my name is Navina, and I'm coming to you from Australia this evening. I have a lived experience of breast cancer, both personally as my mum. So I want to take you back to my life about 10 years ago when I was the head of strategy for Australia's largest health insurer. We'd finished a public listing that sold for $5.3 billion. This was our company, and it was the second largest in Australian history. After that project finished, I went to South America for 5 weeks, and I also got a puppy. Life was looking good. I was fit and healthy, and I was looking forward to the following year. Then I ended up on Christmas Eve 2014 getting a cancer diagnosis. I had found a lump in my breast as well as a lymph node that was raised. And when I went to get it checked out, it turned out to be cancer. It was triple negative, and I don't know how many of you understand the different subtypes, but triple negative is one of the more aggressive subtypes of breast cancer. And it was stage 3. So I had to have surgery. I then had 16 rounds of chemotherapy and 30 rounds of radiation. What that led to was not only the side effects during the treatment, but it caused nerve damage, permanent nerve damage in my body, and that led to a chronic pain syndrome. And that meant that I couldn't return to my full time work as an executive. So I had to start looking to, understanding firstly the diagnosis and the implications of the diagnosis, and, how to um, take what was a really, you know, hard health situation and flip it. So, initially when I was diagnosed, I thought, oh my God, am I going to die? Everybody thinks cancer equals death. And I thought, well, when I looked at the statistics, 60% of cancers are just bad luck. One in seven women get breast cancer, one in four people get cancer, one in two people get cancer by the time you're 85 years old. So instead of it becoming, why me? I thought, well, why wouldn't it be me? There's four people in my family. So one in four are going to get cancer. I guess it would be me. Um, and I started thinking about um, the positives, the positives around, um, you know, my family, my friends, my dog. You'll see there's a photograph of me in the middle of that page with a blonde wig. So I went to try out um, wigs because you lose your hair when you have chemo, and I thought, why not have a bit of fun with it? So I tried on a blonde wig, for example. I went traveling the following year, to Paris. This was a photograph with the red scarf of me sitting there at a restaurant in Paris. My dog had grown up. These are my parents, and those were my friends, and I've got more than that. But it was basically trying to look for the silver lining to not only understand the diagnosis, but try and live my life without, um, letting it weigh down on me. Other things I looked at doing was um, self compassion, you know? um, instead of being angry with myself or angry with anybody else, I was like, well, I'll look at being kind to myself. I needed to be patient because my memory wasn't the same, my body wasn't the same. And also that I'm not alone. As you saw on the previous slide, I have a lot of um, positives in my life. I have a lot of friends, but also I ended up meeting a lot of other people who had cancer, and some of whom were in a worse situation than me. So then, when I looked at that, I thought, well, how lucky am I that I get to live? There's people I know who have passed away from cancer, but I get to live, and I get to enjoy my life, and I get to be with my family. Um, I'd looked at my whole life, and you grieve because I'd spent so many decades trying to become an executive, and you work hard and you get somewhere, and then I had to let it all go. And that was hard initially because it's a blow to the ego. You're no longer a senior executive at a largest health insurer, or you're no longer head of strategy, that you can talk about. But then I looked at what really is important, and you realize that those sort of labels and those sort of things aren't as important as much as, again, having a life and being with loved ones, and so on. Um, the chronic pain took a bit of getting used to. Initially, I was supposed to recover from the pain within 3 to 6 months after treatment ended, but it continued. And then I spent 2 years trying to, find a cure for the pain. And it took a while. And, I tried so many things. I tried so many different medications and therapies. And in the end, none of them worked. And I had to learn to stop fighting, stop looking for a solution, and to accept that my new body was the way it was going to be. And one of the things with chronic pain, that's it's a psychological thing as much as it is physical, in that whenever you feel pain, you shy away from it because you think, or it's pain, which means I'm doing damage, which means I should stop doing whatever it is I'm doing. But with chronic pain, you sit there and it's there all the time. You're not doing anything and it's there. And you have to change your mindset to, I call it leaning into the pain rather than fighting it. Because if you fight it, then you have no life because you wouldn't do anything. But you have pain anyway. So you might as well do stuff. And then the other thing I looked at doing was, okay, if I can't work in my professional life, what else can I do? And so I created a life with purpose, which was around making a difference and, a new identity as in who I am, who am I now, and taking pride in it as a survivor and taking control of something that happened to me. It wasn't something I chose to, but rather than waiting for something to happen and just sitting here, I thought, well, what can I do with my professional skills and now my personal knowledge? And so I ended up becoming you know, a, 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 a consumer representative, as Dr. Yadav was mentioning. And these are all the organizations that I'm associated with or linked with or do work for. As you can see, there's several there, and they all uh, pull on a different part of my brain or my emotions, basically. Um, Places like breast cancer trials, Monash University, WEHI, which is the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute of Medical Research, University of Adelaide, University of Sydney, all of those, CSL, they're all um, my research brain. So I work with consumers. Sorry, I'm a consumer. I work with researchers while they're conducting their scientific research because in Australia, when you look for grant submissions, every organization that provides grants asks the researcher to work with at least two cancer consumers. So I'm associated with a lot of those organizations. And then obviously BBIF, so Biobanking India Foundation with Dr. Yadav and his team. And then there's, Cancer Council Victoria, Breast Cancer Network Australia, Victorian Comprehensive Cancer Centre, Cancer Australia. They're all where I share my story um, and, do presentations like this to help others. And Eastern Health is a hospital service here, about 7 hospitals, and Safer Care Victoria is our local state government organization that looks after quality and safety of public hospitals. So I work with them as well. Again, sharing my lived experience, but also my professional experience of what, patients and family members should expect when they go to a hospital. So that's a bit about me, Dr. Yadav, and I hope that I've covered some points today about how to build resilience after a health challenge. Thank you. I think you're on mute. The good old is
Yeah.
ah, there you go. Sorry. Yes.
Next. So there are some questions received that well, when you aware about the cancer and about the triple negative cancer and its diagnosis.
So I'd felt a lump um, a few months prior, but because I had no family history, I
Mhm.
discounted it. I thought it was a cyst because I was checking at different times of the month to take account of the hormonal cycle, and it wasn't there. So I thought, oh, it's a cyst, and I got busy with my life and I ignored it. And then about a month before I was diagnosed, I felt the lymph node in my armpit. And so that drove me to go to the doctor. And then she sent me for a mammogram, an ultrasound. This was my general practitioner. And from there, it took about 2 weeks before I could see a surgeon. And from the day I saw the surgeon, within 2 days, because he did a biopsy on the same day when I saw him, first. Within 2 days, he had the triple negative diagnosis. And then 2 days after that, I was having surgery. So it was a lumpectomy, and they removed all the lymph nodes in my armpit, because 10 years ago they didn't do the isolated, lymph node sentinel biopsy. They used to just remove everything. So that's how I found out it was triple negative.
Yeah, and I know, Navina, that your mother was also the cancer patient. So, which type of cancer she had?
She had ER and PR positive, so hormone receptive cancer. And I had genetic testing done when I got diagnosed, because I was young and it was triple negative, and they were concerned that there might be some family history, but we didn't find any. And then when mom got diagnosed, because it was hormone receptive, they basically said there was no connection between hers and mine. So
So, she was the ER and PR,
estrogen and
estrogen,
progesterone.
yeah, progesterone receptor. So, I think that she was also as a breast cancer. Am I
Yes,
right?
yes, hers was breast cancer as well. But because of me, she was very conscious of checking for lumps, and she found a lump, and we caught it really early, so it was only stage one. So she had surgery, and she took hormone blocking therapy, tamoxifen. And that's about it. She didn't need chemo or radiotherapy, because we caught it so early.
And what other test means doctors did? Means like BRCA, other test have you done
That was
during
the
the?
one. Yeah. So that was the genetic testing that I underwent. So for BRCA1, BRCA2, TP53, and there was one more. It'll come to me. But there was four at the time. There was four main ones that they checked for, and I was negative for all of them.
Okay. So, did you have any prior awareness about the triple negative breast cancer? And if not, then how did you come to learn about it after your diagnosis?
So I didn't know anything about breast cancer other than you know, the word breast cancer, because nobody in my family had ever had cancer. And um, and as I mentioned earlier, I thought family history has a big role. But after I got diagnosed, I found out only 3 to 5% of cancers, of breast cancers, are because of family history. So the rest is all just random. The other risk factors are just random nature. Um, once I once the surgeon said to me, "Oh, you have triple negative," I thought, what's that? And he then explained to me about the different subtypes. And then when I saw my oncologist 2 weeks after I had surgery, she then explained to me how the different subtypes equals different treatment regimes. So with triple negative, you have surgery, chemotherapy, and radiotherapy, and that's all. There is no other therapies available. If you're ER or PR positive, you get the hormone blocking therapy, so endocrine therapy. And if you're HER2 positive, you get drugs like Herceptin. Um, there's more in the last 10 years, there's a lot of research that's been done for triple negative. And so they're now finding new medications to give triple negative patients, because one of the issues was that once you got beaten up with chemo and radiotherapy, that was it. And there was no other option available. So that's how I got to learn about triple negative and all the other types of subtypes.
Yeah, so that was my next question. You started that if when you got that you are triple negative, and there is no a specific treatment for the triple negative late, because if someone is ERPR positive, then that is a hormonal. If someone
Yes.
is HER2 positive, then that have also the specific treatment. So, what kind of treatment did you undergo, and how did you feel about the treatment option presented to you?
Um, I was very naive. Um, and a lot of people who go through cancer are when the first time, because you think, oh, okay, chemo, yes, you'll feel a bit sick, you'll lose your hair, you might get nausea, and then with the radiotherapy, oh, you get a bit of a burn, and then so I accepted that. because you have to do it to live. So you go, okay, I'll just do it. But I thought that the side effects would only last for the duration of the treatment. And then the next day, or maybe a couple of months after I finish treatment, everything will be fine and I go back to my old life. Um, what I discovered after I finished active treatment was that that's not the case. You know, you end up with these side effects for either a long time, if not forever. Um, and again, at the time, it didn't occur to me. Like I felt sad that there wasn't anything else other than chemo or radiotherapy, that there was hormone therapy for other people, so they got extra treatment, which means extra chance that it won't come back. And then also for her to they had Herceptin, um, and I thought, oh, it's a bit of a a sad thing that we only get to have two rather than four extra treatments. Um, which is one of the reasons why I decided to work with researchers to try and find extra therapies for triple negative.
Yeah. So the next question I got is that how did you manage the physical and emotional impacts of the treatment?
Um, I made a mistake when I was going through the treatment.
Mm.
Having Indian parents, they baby you, and they fed me. Actually, I think they almost doubled my food intake because they went, "Oh, you're going to turn skinny because you'll get nausea." Except nowadays, you get steroids given to you with your chemotherapy, so instead of nausea, you actually get hungry. So you start putting on weight, which is not a good thing for breast cancer. Um, from a physical perspective, I stopped doing a lot of things. And I actually, when I talk to other patients now, I tell them that's a mistake, that you should do as much as you can. You should listen to your body. So, when you feel tired, rest, but to keep doing as much as you can of the activity from before you had cancer, because otherwise your stamina goes down to zero and then you have to start from scratch. So I had a difficult time after the treatment finished, trying to build up my stamina to reduce my fatigue. One of the other things that had happened to me after surgery was I had a cording. I don't know if you guys know, scar tissue that developed from inside my breast up into my armpit down to my wrist. It felt like a guitar string. So they had to break that. So to break, they gave me exercises after I had um, surgery, but they didn't say to me. Sorry, what they did say to me was, if it hurts, don't push it. But what they should have said was, you need to push it a little bit, because I didn't, and then it became a problem, and I had to get it broken through massage, which was very painful. But in general, yeah, it was a mistake not to exercise and not to keep your physical activity up.
Yeah. So have you participated also in any clinical trials
Unfortunately,
or
no.
alternative therapy?
Um,
Yeah.
from an alternative therapy perspective, I tried things like yoga and Pilates. I also tried acupuncture, but with the yoga and Pilates, because I have chronic pain in all my joints, it became difficult for me to do the moves because I can't rest on my hands and other joints. And with the acupuncture and so on, none of it actually gave me much relief. So I ended up not going ahead with it. Clinical trials, there wasn't any that was suitable at the time because there wasn't a lot happening in triple negative. There is now, but it's a bit late for me. But I'm very supportive of clinical trials. I think they're excellent. Experiments are excellent ways of, one, getting alternative therapies up, but two, to also give people hope. Because some people, if they have end stage, you can keep them alive long enough till they get access to some new therapies which might save their lives. So, no, very big supporter of trials.
Yeah. Now, another question I got that how did you cope with the emotional aspect of living with the TNVC? And did you seek any professional psychological support or counseling?
Um, it, I mean, for 2 weeks, I didn't tell anybody because I hadn't seen a surgeon and I didn't want to. you know, burden people with the news until I knew more. It was really hard to tell my parents. It was like the worst thing I ever did. Or you know, it was. I will go through cancer again before I have to do that. Um, Again, it initially I thought I was going to die, because I knew it had spread and because I didn't know much about cancer. Now I look back, going, "Oh my God!" Uh, and I once I told people, once I had the treatment plan in front of me, it made me focus on that. I'm very good at being rational, so I could go, okay, and I have a science background, so I went, okay, here's the disease. Um, when I once I had the surgery, I was cancer free at that point. Like the thing had gone, and everything I was doing after that was an insurance policy. And I'm very good at flipping things in my head. So instead of thinking why me, I went down the why not me path, and I went, yeah, of course this happens to a lot of people, and there's a lot of research, and there's a lot of therapies available, and breast cancer is one of the better ones. If you wanted to get a cancer, which you don't, but it's on the outside of your body, it has very good survival rate. So I basically took the rational path. I did see a psychologist when I was going through my pain stuff, because we were dealing with, um, well, two things mainly. One was my lack of sleep, because of the pain, but also how to deal with living with pain and living with chronic pain. Because acute pain, when you break your toe or you hurt yourself, they get the sharp pain and might be sharp for a little while and it goes away. Whereas chronic pains are always there. And if you do too much, and by too much, it can mean, 1 hour, it can mean 5 hours. It depends. Your body doesn't tell you, doesn't give you a consistent measurement. And so I get spikes. And so I have to deal with that as well. So, yes, psych support is very important, especially when people are dealing with a disease like cancer. I don't have children, so I'm sure if I did, that would be an additional impact, psychological impact, not only for me but also for them that would need support. So
So, Navina, you told that you tried the yoga and these things. So, what other lifestyle changes you did after the diagnosis of your cancer?
so I mean, one of the best things that happened to us was our puppy, because I had to walk this little creature, and she didn't care that I had cancer, and it was really helpful for me to get out of the house. Even if I could only walk a block, it was more activity than I would have done otherwise. I never knew how to swim, so I learned to swim because running and walking with joint pain is very difficult. But in a swimming pool, it's a lot easier because you float and it's a lot lighter. I did Pilates, not Pilates, sorry, I talked about that. Water aerobics, to build my stamina and fitness, while reducing the impact on my joints at the same time. Healthier diet. I never used to exercise before. I was very thin, but now I incorporate exercise into my day to day. What else did I do? I kind of started to let go of things. All the little things. I call it don't sweat the small stuff. um, little problems happen all the time, but there's no need to get overly stressed about it. And it gives you perspective once you've had a disease like cancer, that little things don't really matter that much. So there's a few things I did. Yeah, I mean, I'm very different to what I used to be before. I don't. Well, I work hard, but I don't work as hard as I used to. I used to do 12, 15-hour days every day. That's certainly, and you focus on what you become more focused on what's important, not just work.
Yeah. So I think that you diagnosed in 2014. Am I right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So have you experienced any long-term side effects from the treatment?
Yeah. So the chronic pain. So I got peripheral neuropathy, which turned into chronic pain. That was one of my biggest ones. I still have fatigue. And you know, I, I still have numbness, in my armpit. I still get twinges where my surgery was. Um, I still have a bit of scarring from the radiotherapy. So there are a few things, but I think the biggest thing for me has been the peripheral neuropathy and the from the nerve damage and the chronic pain.
Yeah. So, I mean, how often do you have a checkup for that one? Uh,
Every year. So once a year, I have a mammogram and ultrasound.
mhm.
I have a couple of times had to get and that's on both sides, both breasts. A couple of times I've had to get core biopsies done because they saw something suspect, but it turned out to be nothing. Um, and um, and for the first 5 years, I saw my surgeon, oncologist, and radio oncologist every year. And then after 5 years, because it's triple negative and the risk goes down, they discharge me, but I still get the scans done, and my general practitioner checks them for me. And if there's anything suspect, will then send me back to the specialist.
Yeah. So now in our country, in India, there's many women have the lump, and they due to this some of the social culture and some sinus in nature, they are not going for the treatment. She's not telling to the even her family members about the lump. Uh, so, what is your advice about the women in India who either diagnosed who have the lump,
Mm.
or any healthy women, how often they well, see they should go for the checkup and these things? Any advice for them?
I'll tackle the second part first. In Australia, every woman over 50 is expected to go and have a mammogram every 2 years. Um, and it is free for women over 40, but they only tell you about the over 50 bit because that's when your risk obviously significantly increases. Doesn't mean to say if you're under 50, you don't get breast cancer, as you can see, I did. Um, and several women do. With the lump, with finding the lump, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that you have to have family history to have it, and you have to be old to get breast cancer, and both of those are wrong. And I think there needs to be some kind of education done. It even here in Australia, we need some education around it, but especially in India. I'll share a story. When I told my story to my friends and work colleagues, there were four women in my life who were young, who all had lumps and had been ignoring them. And they all went to get a checkup, and two ended up being cancer. And they wouldn't have got it checked up, but they ended up being like stage one. So they had surgery and then they were done. Whereas if I hadn't shared my story and they hadn't got the checkup, they would have been stage two or stage three, which means your survival rates go down, the amount of treatment you have to have goes up. So for women who have got a lump and who are not getting checked out, for their own peace of mind, they should go and get it done. It's very relatively pain-free. Mammograms and ultrasounds, are not that invasive. And not only will they get peace of mind that it's nothing, but if it is something, they'll catch it early and get it taken care of. And the impact of that, like I look at my mom, who had hers at stage one, whereas me at stage three, surgery, and she was done. I had to go through chemo and radiotherapy, which are actually quite awful. And so it took a lot more out of my life than simply surgery would have. So, um, and for women, I get that people have faith in God and those sort of things, but maybe God's told you that there's a lump there. So, get it checked out. People think God will take care of you, but that's how he or she has taken care of you. So, I'm an atheist, but for people who are of faith, I think they need to think about those sort of things.
Yeah. One question come in my mind, that you had experience of cancer in your family, that your mother diagnosed at the stage first, but you at the stage three.
Mm.
So means how you go for the diagnosis late, or Yes.
Yeah. I had see, but I went first. See,
Okay.
mine was in 2014. My mother's was in 2022. So
Okay.
she benefited
Yeah.
from my diagnosis because we knew what to do and we went, okay, we can't ignore this. Let's go and
Mm.
get it looked at. And then it turned out to be cancer. But that's why she got hers looked at earlier than I did. Yeah. And it's a mistake. And a lot of people think that family history is a big factor. It's not. If you have family history, the chances of you getting it is big. But in a population sense, only 3 to 5% of breast cancers are because you have family history. And I didn't know any of that because I had no reason to think about cancer. My parents had other illnesses, but nobody in our family ever had cancer. So I didn't have that natural knowledge, as we call it, health literacy, to understand the details of cancer. And cancer is very different to everything else. Other chronic diseases, you take the treatment, you feel better, you get on with your life, or so on. With cancer, the treatment makes you feel worse, and it almost kills you to help you survive. So it's a very different illness to anything else out there.
Yeah. So the last question I received, that what message would you like to share with the researchers and healthcare professionals who is working on the cancer?
I think there are a few things with healthcare professionals. One is about educating their patients. Even the patients that don't have cancer yet, to educate them that it's not something to be scared of because people automatically get scared. And there's a lot of treatments available. Of course, it depends on the type of cancer as well. There's things like liver and brain and stuff that um, still are looking for decent treatments. But anyway, putting that aside, let's talk about breast cancer. Breast cancer has 92% survival rate. I think the important thing for health professionals, though, is not to just think of the disease, but to think of the human. So, first thing somebody sits in front of you and they've got cancer, you go, yep, okay, I'm going to save your life. I'm going to give you these treatments. And the patient's also very happy about that because they want their life to be saved. But once the treatment finishes, the person has to go live their life for however many years, 10, 20, 30, 40. And the treatments that you choose will have a big impact on how they live that life. So for me, I'm going to be, several decades of living with chronic pain. Now, for triple negative, there isn't a lot of options, and I'm not unhappy with the treatment I was given. But nowadays, you can get more targeted and finessed with breast cancer treatment, especially for hormone receptive ones, where sometimes, chemo is of no use. For some of whom, radiotherapy might not be of any use. But yet we give it to them because it's the way of doing things. And I think we have to get better about preserving people's quality of life and also explaining to patients what it looks like, because ultimately it's their body and their choice. And one last thing I I wanted to share is around training. So at the moment, and this is around the globe, medical students are trained in hospitals. So they get used to acute setting. So they come in, patients in the bed, they look at the chart, they might talk to them for 2 minutes and then they leave. Clinical medicine means you have to sit in front of them appointment after appointment and have a conversation and understand not only a patient's physical issues, but also their mental health and psychological impact of whatever they're going through. So I think we need to reconsider how we train doctors, not just in an acute setting, but then also in a clinical setting. So that would be
Mm.
some of my ideas.
Yeah. So, uh, yeah, one question I come in mind. In our country, if someone is triple negative, even if someone is diagnosed with the cancer, even at the first stage, they are thinking that they are going to die in the few years, and they are leaving everything to emotionally they are going down, and
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, there's
So
no
if
point. There's no point to living anymore.
yeah, then living in bed. But you are the very inspirational that you have the triple negative. You are diagnosed in 2014, and uh, I think that before the diagnosis, you are working in the some industry, but after the diagnosis, you change and you are involved in the many things.
Mm.
Even I think that you are doing more than active role at present in comparison to the 2015 before.
My friends laugh at me. They say, like, you have a full-time job, and I'm like, well, I there's a few things, right? Because everyone thinks cancer means death,
Yeah.
and I thought so too. Like immediately when my doctor rang me, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to die. I might not be here next year. All of those things. But then within a couple of minutes, it's like wake up. How many people live with cancer every day? You only think of the people who died. But there's only when I thought about it, I was thinking, oh, that famous person died from breast cancer, and that famous. But there was only two, but those were the names I thought of straight away. And then you realize that actually, no, it's not a death sentence. And I think again, people need to be as part of body checks and being mindful about lumps and stuff. Is that breast cancer? But it doesn't have to be a death sentence. And the earlier you get it looked at, the better off you are. And your faster your recovery will be, and also you can reassess your life and do different things. You don't have to be doing the same old stuff, working the same hours. You can readjust and find meaning in your life and find purpose if that's what you want to do. Some people like going back to what they used to do, and that's fine too. Humans have choices.
Yeah.
It's about making the choices that you're happy with. So
Yeah. So I would like to thanks Navina for your experience, your inspirational talk, and one live example for the all healthy people, and also the cancer patients. That cancer is just like other disease, I think, and you have to be positive and uh, 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 take the inspirational phrase the Navina that how to survive and take the active role.
yeah,
Yeah, because there are many ways for the death, and even we don't know that what will happen in the second minute. So even you know that we have the cancer and we can do many things.
yeah.
So yeah, so I would like to thanks again Navina for the coming and hope that we will do many things with your help to the awareness about the cancer in India through the BBIF cancer care. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
having me. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me, and thanks for organizing this session. And I hope everyone got something out of it. So thank you.
Okay. Bye.